Hello, it's Ruby, and today I'm going to be answering a question which I am asked very frequently. How do I read so much? Last year I read 102 books in a year, and on this video people asked me, well, how are you able to read so much and yet also study so much? Because additionally I spend sometimes 14 hours a day studying. So how do I find time to read amongst a busy studying schedule? I'm going to be giving 6 tips today on how you can read more, because reading is so enjoyable and I feel a lot of people find it really difficult to incorporate it into their everyday lives. And there are so many books we want to read. Number one is very important, and this is to set aside a time every day where you are going to read. I like to read in the morning as soon as I wake up, so I read in bed, and I also read last thing before I go to sleep. Not only does this calm down my brain and wake it up in the morning, but it means that I always make sure that I read at least a tiny bit every day. I like to read for an hour every evening, however this could go up to 3 depending on how engrossed I am in the novel. In the mornings I typically read for about 15 to 30 minutes. You could really have this at any time, so maybe as soon as you get home from school you set aside half an hour where you can just sit down with your book and a mug of tea and read then. If you put it in your routine, you're more likely to do it, and this means that you are going to consistently be reading. The second thing is to read when you're travelling, especially if you have to travel a long way for work or school. It's really great if you are able to actually use this time for good. If you do get car sick, perhaps you could even listen to audiobooks. I know it's not really the same, and I'm not a massive fan myself, but it might be helpful. Third thing is one that I always do, and I definitely recommend it, and this is to always have a book with you. As humans, we are disposed to occasionally be in situations where we are waiting. That's inevitable. And so if you're waiting for a friend outside of your classroom, if you're waiting for an important meeting, if you have a book with you, you can while away that time and you can use it effectively instead of just standing there and not really knowing what to do. Trust me, when you have a book with you, you find yourself picking up a few pages every now and then, and it really does accumulate and you end up reading much more. Now, this is definitely a bit of a conundrum, you could say, because in order to read more, you need to read more, in the sense that the more you read, the faster you get at reading. This next tip is something that my friend Eleanor actually recommended to me, something that she does. If you're reading an especially heavy book, you can put page flags on specific pages telling you where you are aiming to get up to that night. So funnily enough, the closest book to me is A Little History of Literature, which Eleanor actually got for me as well. So for example, you might pop a page flag here to say, oh, I'm going to read up to page 27 by the end of today, and then you'll also have one page 109. After 2 days I would have read that much. This is a great way to make sure that you don't procrastinate with your reading, because you've got a goal in sight. And especially if you are a bit like me and you like to be on top of things and you love to-do lists and you like lists, this is a really great way of getting through a particularly heavy book. Now, the last thing is perhaps the most important thing of all, and this is to love what you're reading. If you enjoy the literature, then you're more likely to want to read it and you're going to find the time to. You're not going to procrastinate with it at all, but if you find yourself kind of a bit wary of the literature, you don't really enjoy it, then I doubt that you're going to read as much. You probably won't read as quickly, you'll probably find yourself getting distracted, so you need to find books that you love. And this leads on to something else that I actually do, which is I like to alternate between heavy and light fiction. There's always a long list of young adult novels which I think look quite intriguing. So if I'm reading a really heavy novel, I'll probably on the side be reading a much lighter one. So if I find myself really tired and unable to concentrate on the heavier piece, I'm able to go over to the lighter piece, and that way I'm still reading. I am a great advocate of reading multiple books because your mood does change and what you want to read changes. So thank you so much for watching. I hope that you find this video helpful, and I hope that it helps you to read a few more books that are sitting patiently on your bookshelf. Have a productive week.